Okay, so 5 o'clock, Eastern Standard Time. Lori is not on Eastern Standard Time. She's taking notes. Thank you very much, Lori. The agenda has been set around. The first of the presentations are from our friends arriving right on cue. It's Captain Martin, Sergeant Croson, and Officer Champa.
Well,
So we mixed it up a little.
Sorry.
Jason Richardson,
Oh,
he's new to our office. We still have Sergeant Crossan, but
there we go.
just knew us to bring him along for a meeting. He won't cover the Wharf directly, but if I'm not here, Captain can make it. You may see his face, so we want to just kind of bring him along.
Well, this is where all of the excitement is. You're welcome. Who would like to start with telling us about what's been going on in the last month?
sure. So again, pretty uneventful month for your area, which is good as always. One thing of significance, I guess, we had a gentleman going around the hotels for a while, using a card reader, sneaking in a hotel, stealing things from hotel rooms all throughout the city, up to Maine, New Hampshire.
Excuse me, one question. Can you hear?
Yeah.
Thumbs up.
Thank you.
Of course, so we had an individual, going around in many hotels, including Long Wharf here. I stole a jacket, he had a security reader. What this guy would do, he would hide in closets, hide in areas, and you would walk by, he would scan your card, watch a room he went and leave, he would use that and he would get into the room, so it's pretty clever, but he did this from Massachusetts, New Hampshire, Maine, for a while. We were able to catch up to him last week, lock him up, and he has numerous charges from various states. He's wanted all the way out to, I believe, Wyoming, but they're not gonna obviously extra item to bring him across, right? But again, he won't be a problem here for a while. But this is a guy who's had several issues at the Marriott Long Wharf and throughout the district, but he'll no longer be an issue. Other than that, I'm sure you guys were all aware of the body found in the water off the pier.
When was that?
That was on January 27th.
Yeah,
So
it was a big event.
Tell us, for those of us who.
you might have partaken a little bit too much that day.
I was
He didn't wake up. So it turned out to be a suicide. So
Oh, what a shame.
we pulled the cameras and we got him jumping in the water.
Where did that occur?
Right at 85 East Indian Road
So he actually jumped from
We
85?
have them on our camera.
from the pier. Yeah, he jumped. So it wasn't nothing to be of concern. It's a tragedy, but it's not a public safety concern to anyone else, not a homicide or anything like that.
Are they aware, does security at 85 know, at Howard Towers know about?
It was on our side,
Yeah.
it wasn't on the Harbor side, our side, but yeah, John knows, yeah. He helped out and just to see if he had anything, but we had it on our cameras.
Again, you had a vandalism report where a couple drunk kids pushed over a mailbox. The officers picked it back up, put it back where it belonged, caught up with a couple kids, fairly fair distance away, matched description. They couldn't put it on them, but no big deal. Mailbox put back up. They didn't put anything crazy on it or anything. We had one overdose on the 13th in McKinley Square. Lady's upset with her husband, took a few too many pills. He called for an ambulance. They got her taken care of, so that one worked out. But again, that's the only thing regarding the medical issues. And then lastly, we had a simple assault and battery on Atlantic Ave. A group of juveniles following around a couple other juveniles, saying bad things to them, throwing footballs at them, pushing them, things such as that, but very minor. They're reviewing cameras, still some is with the court for threats or whatnot, but simple A and B. But again, nothing, no trends, no patterns, definitely no issues with violence. I think the Wharf is still in good shape, so area. But any questions about these incidents or any other issues or questions you have that we can get you some answers to?
Anything more on that vandalism in the garage a month or so ago?
A couple months back.
Yeah, cutting of wires and,
Oh,
He was identified, he did a couple of the, hotels, and they were able to identify, I don't know if there was a flooring issue yet.
so I'll look at that. So they did identify him. He has some mental health issues. And they were, I believe, working with the courts to either get him help with that and or maybe file some charges if necessary, but, I believe they have him on 3 different properties doing the same thing, but, yeah, he has, some serious mental health issues, which makes you feel a little bit better. Not right, but the things he was doing was definitely troublesome. A big concern to me. Didn't know it was gonna lead to something else, some kind of attack, but once they located and identified who it was and figured it out, I think put people at ease. But, I'll get an answer for you we'll follow up with the email call, whether or not he's charged or what's going on with that.
thanks.
You got it?
Thank you. Questions from anybody online that would like to ask, the gentleman here who keep us safe?
No, just thank you. Really appreciate everything you do for the Greenway, sir.
Thank you, Chris.
Absolutely. And by the way, it's really cold out, so you've got to be a really nutty criminal to be out there.
Go to the sauna now, eh?
Yeah.
Meeting, maybe a couple months ago, Jason was like, I'm a sauna handler. I remember them, talking about it one of the meetings.
Yeah,
Looked pretty enjoyable.
yeah, no, you're actually gonna.
So, he's trying, the sauna, he wants to get a 10 o'clock permit and I think some music and stuff. Are you all aware of that? On board with that or?
With the sauna
Yeah.
folks.
I believe so. Chris might know more about this, but,
Yeah, it's just the music that's inside it is point of sale, where you actually purchase, you go inside it's the atmospheric music as you go inside the point of sale entryway, but because it's music, he still has to get an entertainment license for it. So there's no exterior music. But it's like, if you go into a Dunkin' Donuts, if they're playing the radio at the Dunkin' Donuts, they're supposed to have an entertainment license, so.
Thank you very much for what you do for us every day.
of course,
And, we may not be there to say thank you every day.
I appreciate it. Appreciate the support.
Captain, it's Sergeant Crossan. Hey, just so a heads up for the gentleman with the vandalism from the hotels, he was criminally charged. He was sectioned and then criminally charged. Summons into Boston Municipal Court, and that's going through the process now.
Thanks, Jack. Yeah, detectives just text that same thing, yeah. Yeah, so perfect. So yes, he was dealt with as well. Something happens with courts.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, they don't hold people too often. We had a gentleman who had two sets of commercial burglaries on Charles Street. Was just let out again, and 2 more sets just happened, and they don't seem to hold people too long these days, who are plaguing the community. So hopefully they get him the help he needs.
Yeah.
Hold him accountable.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Can I ask a quick question? We seem to be blessed with very low crime in this district. Are there other places in the city where it's much more of an issue?
Where what's more of an issue?
Crime and.
Of course. There's a lot of, depending on what part of the city, when there's a lot of, much higher volume of part 1 crime or violent crime. Trends change depending where you are in the city. Down here, our biggest issues are package thefts, to be honest, maybe assaults from the bars, some quality of life issues with emotionally disturbed people or homeless, and the juveniles committing all the thefts and, causing a lot of issues. But yes, throughout the city, each area has a different challenges, and then there's places that are pretty much worse off with violence, but we're very fortunate down here when it comes to violent crime, rapes, robberies, all that good stuff.
But the mayor says that you guys are doing a really good job all over the city.
Yep.
That the rates are down. Is that, I understand that correctly?
The BRIC puts out statistics, I believe citywide. I believe we're down across the board. I don't know in every category, but a lot of the major categories. So, The guys and girls are out there grinding, you know, short staff, we're putting out fires as they come, doing our best, but, yes, crime is down.
Well, let's get that. Very nice. Thank you again.
Of course, any other
Thank
questions?
you, officers.
We have another meeting to shoot to, so if everyone else is good and no other questions, we're gonna scoop.
Okay.
Great.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Much appreciated.
Thank you. See you guys. Thank you. Take care. Thank you. Bye. See you again. Yes, you will. Only here. Yeah.
Or in the summer.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
So our guest speaker this evening, is, Councilor Coletta. I don't know if the councilor is on. Oh, there we are. Great. Wonderful. For those of you who don't know, Councilor Coletta is now the council for District 1, which includes most of the Wharf district. And she's going to share with us, I guess, some of your plans for the neighborhood, and we have some thoughts for you as well, Councilor.
Yeah, that sounds great. I actually have Jack, who is going to be sharing some slides. I feel like that would be helpful to frame the conversation. I always like looking at slides when someone's talking. So, Jack, do you have the capability to do that?
Should have now.
I guess while we're setting it up, and just let me know if it's all good to go. I should see it on my Zoom, I think, too. But I just want to thank you all so much. I was supposed to be in person, but I appreciate the accommodation to tend to some home things. But I'm just so grateful to be with you all. And thank you all so much for taking time out of your night. I know that this is time away from the couch with a warm blanket, a cup of tea, watching some TV shows. And so you do it because you love the neighborhood and you love the city. So I just want to say thank you. And I've worked with many of you even before becoming the district councilor for some of our most rewarding and important work. I'm thinking of coastal resilience, which I will get into at some point, but I want to thank you again for your work in that regard. And as long as I can remember, I know that it's been standard practice for councilors to come to civic associations to give brief updates on what they're working on and priorities for the year. Of course, you know, I've only been technically representing you all for the past 2 months and 20 days. And so would love to hear from you all about what your priorities are. I did have some listening sessions earlier this year, but this is based on what we have heard in the last couple of months, and would love for it to be a conversation. So I'll do a quick recap of what we've done in the past year. We just produced our annual report, and I just want to highlight this here. We published this in December of last year, just before Christmas. This is where we discuss some budget wins, policy wins, constituent services, community initiative, and what we're working on ahead. Next slide, please, Jack. And so it's about 6 pages. And if you're interested in saving paper, you can always use this QR code here with your phone, or go to the website that is provided here. It's also in the signature of my email. So it is readily available, and always happy to touch base and discuss some of the specifics that we have within it. Next slide.
So if you could have Jack send that to if it's okay to have this deck or something like that sent to us, we'll make sure it gets included in the meeting notes as well.
Yes, I sent it along to Suzanne about a half hour before the meeting.
Thank you so much. So I wanted to start with the bread and butter of city services, just because, you know, this is something that folks talk about.
Harbor Tower 1 concierge.
Oh, there we go. Sorry about that. So I love being a city councilor because you're able to see the direct impact of helping others on an immediate basis through constituent services. Granted, we are working on the larger policy balloons is what I talk about, and that's it influences the day-to-day city services. And I just have to say, on a daily basis, I get in between 50 to 80 calls, you know, just through our office. And it is, it's a lot of what we deal with. We have a district where folks walk every day, they call things in. And so it is what we spend a majority of our time on. And so I wanted to start with this and also give a shout out to Jack, who works so hard and also, you know, works really, really hard and loves the nuts and bolts as well too. So This is what we've heard so far from the Wharf District. Granted, I would love to open this up following this presentation and talk about what else is on top of mind for you. General infrastructure of streets and sidewalks is something that I've heard over and over and over again. It's gotten to the point in the North End where I reached out to the North End Neighborhood Health Center to figure out how many people have fallen and have appeared in front of doctors because they've taken a fall on the streets and sidewalks. I got the statistic that it was over 72 patients in 2023, based on the amount of times that somebody has fallen on the sidewalk. And so this is a serious issue. I figure it as a public safety issue. Public Works is incredible, and this is not a reflection on them. We just sources to expand their staff capacity to take less time to pave streets and to fix sidewalks. There needs to be more staff members, there needs to be more equipment, and or we contract it out to folks who could do this work on a faster basis. And so I'm always in contact with Commissioner Broll on various issues. Please call our issues, or please call our office if you see anything on the street. I put 311 requests in all the time on bricks. So this is something that we're very much involved in and making a priority. Public safety support. We are so lucky here, and we just heard from them, but we're so lucky in the city of Boston, and in particular A1 and A7, to have some incredible public safety professionals that service our community every day. I have a great relationship with Chief Hooley at EMS, Commissioner Burke of Fire, and then Captain Martin in A7 and some of the community service officers. And so I understand that as we are growing as a city and thinking about our projected population growths, I'm actively wondering and asking the administration how we are accommodating this growth and if we're able to provide adequate public safety supports. And mainly I'm thinking about EMS because we've had some issues across the district about response times. And so I had a conversation last year, a hearing in the council on this, and something that I'm hearing from folks quite regularly. In terms of lack of parking enforcement and parking spaces in general, I understand that this has been a perpetual staffing issue. Last year during the budget process, I was able to help secure money in the budget for training and hiring more enforcement officers within BTD. We were able to get 10 of them through the training process and hired in the last couple of months. So I'm really proud about that. And I will put traffic congestion and State Street in the same bucket. Please know that I am listening to you all. I understand that this is a huge concern. I had a briefing today with the Streets Cabinet on their State Street redesign. And so my understanding is that they will be holding a meeting in a week on their recommendations. And while I do agree with some components of the plan, I'm a huge proponent of green infrastructure, some of the public realm improvements that we'll see that will beautify our streets here and some pedestrian improvement. I did ask for demonstrated proof of concept from the pilot program and asked for data on the amount of folks that have utilized the bike lanes, the amount of folks that are in their mind have been made safer because of the improvements. That's what the point of a pilot program is. And so I am asking these questions, please know that. When, I don't want the back and forth between the bike lane to take away from some of the incredible stuff that they are proposing, which are the green infrastructure and pedestrian improvements. So I can talk more on that if folks want. I'm seeing Marc nod his head. Yes, I'm happy to answer any questions that you all might have.
So is the presentation that you have, that you saw, the one that they're scheduled to give to us on February 20, to the public on February 27th?
They gave me a brief overview of the PowerPoint. I did not see all of it.
You want to talk about this now or when you're done? What's your preference?
I guess I'll leave it up to you all. I only have 9 slides, so I wasn't trying to talk at you all.
Sorry. Go ahead.
Okay, great. So I think we can go to the next slide. Again, I just want to let folks know, please call our office. We work hand in hand with Ciara D'Amico from ONS2, who does an incredible job to service our city. And we're here to help and to make things right in the public realm. In general, we're out in the community. So one thing that I talk about often is the fact that my parents were incredibly active in their civic associations as well too. I grew up coming to meetings like this. They also brought me to events that taught folks to give back and to take care of one another. And that also included trash cleanups. And I really want to utilize this position to, yes, create policy for a fair and equitable Boston, help with constituent services, but I really want to motivate people to give back. And I've used this position to put forth an anti-trash initiative that includes trash pickups. We picked up over 100 pounds of trash across the district last year, and we were able to create community through that way. And I'm looking at this anti-trash initiative as really multi-layered and focusing on a bunch of different strategies. It just really is a perennial issue in the North End and in East Boston. I'm happy to talk about trash in the Wharf district.
Okay.
So I am, I'm advocating for more Hokies, and these are folks that go around and pick up trash, finding solutions to stop at the source, more trash barrels. We actually went to schools and taught kids how to stop littering and asked them to draw and illustrate anti-litter posters that we hope to get up in businesses later this year. And then at a larger scale, trash contracts are up this year. And this is an opportunity for trash contract reform. And every single 5 years they go up, and we try to bake in reforms that make sense. And while we talk about creative issues, they never really get codified in some of these contracts. So for example, I've been talking to Dennis Roach, who is the, I'll call him the trash guy. That's such a pejorative term, but that's what his job is. He's reviewing these trash contracts, and I asked, why don't we have Hokies follow the trucks up and down the street just to pick up the debris? And that's not something they had considered. Everything's on the table. We're trying to really get creative on how to solve the debris that we see on our streets. Ultimately, go ahead.
Councilor, it's Matthew Murphy. Hi there. And I wanted to just ask a question or raise a concern that I think I raised at the last meeting I saw you at, but I think it's appropriate here as well. Once we get into the spring, summer, fall, and there are tourists galore, as well as local visitors, regional visitors here in the Wharf district, whether it's along the Greenway, whether it's in Faneuil Hall Marketplace, whether it's at Long Wharf, certainly we see the public barrels that are used by the public, that weekends it is just overflowing. And so when these contracts are negotiated, these new trash contracts, I think it needs to be taken into consideration that there needs to be more frequent pickups on the weekends, especially during the summer, than other times of year. It's just the sheer amount of foot traffic and amount of stuff that's deposited on Friday nights, Saturday nights into Sunday day is what we have seen in recent years. The number of pickups or the frequency of pickups on weekends is not adequate. Barrels are overflowing and just makes a very poor impression on visitors. So, and it just doesn't look healthy. So I just wanted to just pound that point a little bit more, and hope that you'll take that into consideration as the city looks at these trash contracts.
Can I just add to what
Sure.
Matthew was saying? I walk my dog very early in the morning and late at night, and the amount of rats that this trash generates is appalling. I walk her in the winter, and I'll tell you, I haven't seen a rat in 2 months. And now, knowing with the spring and the increase in tourists and trash and food, and even late at night, because people who are out in the bars and so forth are dumping their trash in the buckets as they're heading for the boats and so forth. And the rats are just beyond your imagination. It's scary.
Yeah.
So it's a huge concern here.
Yeah, you both bring up great points. The trash contracts that I'm talking about only deal with home pickup or residential pickup. So the trash barrels that we see on the street are operated by our public works employees. But that doesn't take away the fact that we need to make sure that our folks are out there and changing them in a way that beautifies our streets and so that they aren't overflowing. But in the summertime, we have additional staff capacity to do that. it's just year round. It sounds like, and even on weekends, what I'm hearing from you, just to have folks go around and check in. I see them frequently, but you know, it doesn't mean that some don't get picked up in a manner or frequency in which they should. So thank you for calling that out. And to your point, Suzanne, the rats are an issue I am trying to work on. There are different things that other cities are doing that we're looking at. For example, in Japan, they have netting around trash bags that they are able, that they aren't able to knot through. So it's blue netting. And what rats really love is organic material. And this is food waste and dog excrement, if I'm being honest with you. But what they really love is this organic food waste. And there's plenty of that in the North End because of the restaurants and just the high density that we have in the community. And so we're looking at everything really, and we see all of these things as interrelated. But it is something that we're working on. Marc, I saw that you wanted to interject.
Just, you know, my wife is not here, so I have to say this thing that she's been asking me to say. You can tell her I said I brought it up. When you travel in Ireland, there is this they have this program called Tidy Towns. And right, Stephen knows it, incredibly successful, and the towns, in this case, the communities, they all compete for the prizes of having the tidiest town. And so, you know, there is a way to get people excited about taking care of their own neighborhood. And you know, you could say that the politicians can't tell them that the trash isn't going to be picked up. You're blaming the victims here, but I think there's another way of saying it, right? So that people could conceivably take it on themselves as a community, as they do in Ireland, to have a sense of pride in not having a trash-ridden neighborhood. So I said my thing.
Well, I always say that Boston is very competitive. When we find out that other towns and cities are doing something and we're not, it does motivate us. So we do have a competitive streak in us, and I feel like a neighborhood from neighborhood, and I see former chief, always chief to me, Chris Cook, talking about tidy towns. So that's definitely something we can explore. Please thank your wife for me for suggesting it.
Sorry, go ahead.
Oh, no worries, no worries. The rest of this is really just calling out the fact that the city has great resources when it comes to emergency. I think the closest to the Wharf District and or the downtown are the building collapses that we've seen in the North End. And I am working to have better coordination response and more supports. So I'm happy to go into that if you all want to, but I'll kind of fly over that. And then just in the community, trying to get City Hall out of City Hall. I've had these listening tours. I have coffee hours coming up. I'm going to every single neighborhood association before the springtime, before budget season comes up, because I want to hear from you, and it will help inform what I ultimately advocate for during the budget. And I do have these budget town halls coming up, and if we can go to the next slide, it outlines where we will be having these. We tried to make them as accessible as possible. In the evening, we're going to have food, babysitting, language services, just so folks can make it, understanding that people have busy lives. So for the North End / Wharf District, it's going to be on Thursday, March 7th at the Nazaro Community Center. And we'll be sure to push that out as we get closer. Next slide, please. So I wanted to talk about the budget just very quickly, because a lot of my power as city councilor comes from my ability to amplify voices of residents directly to the mayor, her chiefs, her department heads. I always talk about the fact that relationships really are currency in City Hall, and I have great relationships with folks, and we're able to move things along quickly. There are times where I agree with the administration, but of course, being the legislative body, there are times where I feel like the city is not moving fast enough to fund some crucial services that improve quality of life. And so a direct checkpoint or a moment of leverage that I have to obtain resources to best serve this district is through the budget process. And this is the second year that the council could now have direct line item amendments in the operating budget only. Before, we simply rejected or passed the budget as a whole, but now we have the opportunity to go into the operating budget, which think of as serving the day-to-day spending on personnel, supplies, debt services, contracting services. I don't have control over the BPS budget. I just have a yes or no on it. And the same goes for the capital budget, which pays for every major infrastructure project you see, like parks, playgrounds, community centers, etc. And so this was the second year, as I mentioned, that we have this power. And I'm proud of the fact that I advocated for budget investments that protect vital city services and really pushed for coastal resiliency to be baked into the budget. I've always talked about having an office of the waterfront or chief resilience officer or something to that effect, the same position that Hoboken has. And so I will continue pushing that forward. So right now, as city departments are finalizing their budgets and submitting them to the mayor's office for approval, I'm advocating for certain initiatives to be funded in the first draft, right? I would like to see my priorities in the first draft, so I'm not then trying to fight it out with my colleagues to get amendments into the second draft and ultimately what we vote on. And so some of my priorities are reflected here and are directly informed from hearing community and hearing from community. And I'm happy to go into anything in particular, but it pretty much is summed up, by my former slide in constituent services with streets and sidewalk repair, trash, expanding neighborhood tree canopy. I think that's a new thing. Our district has the lowest tree canopy in the city, so really fighting for that. And more inspectors for rat mitigation. And we need more building inspectors in the city as well. Next, please. Oh, go ahead, Susan.
This is not about the budget, but there was something in this presentation which triggered something in me, and that is modernization, the technology, more efficient government. The problem is with modernization is you can't get a human being. If you call or you try and go onto the City Hall website, it says, contact us, and it just gives you either a phone number or a web address. And I think a lot of us here are fortunate is that we know people in City Hall. We know how to reach different departments. But if you don't know someone in those departments, you are now going down a road where you don't talk to human beings until a certain point. And I think it's unfortunate because it doesn't affect us as much as it would affect the very people you're trying to help communicate more effectively with government.
Right. In government, especially local government, you're the closest to the people. You should be as accessible as possible. And that's why I will always show up to events. I will always show up to community meetings to hear from folks. And even as a Bostonian in the past, calling and trying to get an answer is very difficult. And the modernization piece, and Jack, if you can go back, I think Suzanne, you are talking about the modernization of internal technological infrastructure systems. I start talking about this and people's eyes glaze over, but it's really, really so important because this is really the backbone of City Hall. Right now, we have so many different software systems that don't talk to each other. And it's to the detriment, as you mentioned, to the people we are supposed to serve, which are the residents. And therefore, we are not able to provide adequate customer service to our residents. And I see this all the time, and it's just legacies of decisions that we've inherited to not modernize the software system, or this one hasn't been updated since 2013. Why not? Oh, because the company doesn't exist anymore. And so I've been working with our technology department to understand where our priorities are, what we could do immediately. And the Do It department, it doesn't get the praise that it deserves, but it is doing incredible work trying to figure this out. And the way in which that I'm trying to articulate this to folks is that we are operating on a flip phone right now when we're living in a world of iPhones. That is City Hall infrastructure right now. It's a cybersecurity issue, and it's also it's popping up in the day-to-day where you can't get access to a human. And so there are things that we could do to make this easier. And ultimately, my job is to make city government more effective and more efficient. And so this is something that I've looked into with Councilor Braden, who represents Austin Brighton. Councilor Flynn has also been interested in this. And I will continue to have a hearing on this in the city council, just because I feel like there is great work that's happening. on behalf of the city and do it. And so I want them to brag a little bit, but they need to be able to articulate their message out as to why it's so important and why it matters to us. I think this is the last slide. Yeah, I think it might be. So I wanted to call out the new chairmanships that I have in the city council. And this is switching gears to the legislative work within the body. So I'm very proud to have been tapped to lead both the Government Operations Committee and the Environmental Justice, Resiliency and Parks Committee. These are both, I talk about levers as a way to kind of flex the muscle in the city council and hold the administration accountable. But these are new levers that I could utilize to shape the best possible policy outcomes to service the city, especially for government operations. For any new piece of legislation that is proposed, either by the mayor or my colleagues, I am ultimately now the one to negotiate provisions or amendments and decide what gets to be put up for a vote for final approval. And so, for example, the BPDA ordinance was just recently introduced by the mayor, creating the planning department as part of her efforts to abolish the BPA, but I don't even want to say that, maybe like reimagine the BPDA to have planning and development separate. And so I look forward to reviewing the merits of the proposal. And obviously, you know, we have major challenges and issues related to environmental justice, resiliency, and sustainability, coastal resilience and storm surge. I don't have to talk to folks in this Zoom and in this room about what is happening. You see it on a day-to-day basis. You are actively living it. And there's been more and more media coverage on it. And it's at the forefront of the public's discourse, which is great. I am now charged with working with the administration, and I do quite regularly meet with Chris Osgood and Allison Brizius of the Environment Department, and Catherine McClandless, who's in charge of Climate Ready Boston, I think just East Boston and Charlestown, to understand how to coordinate our city, state, and federal agencies, even coordinate resources, both public and private, to help pay for fortifying our coastline. And I have to say the Wharf District Council, with what you've done through your own plan, is huge. It's showing us what the model could be of what individual neighborhoods can do. Now it's just on me to replicate it and make sure that everybody's working together to truly meet the sea in a way that is not a parcel by parcel basis, and truly keeping the water out and protecting some of our most vulnerable residents. So I'm very proud to be the chair of this committee. I've made coastal resilience the top issue and storm surge the top issue of my tenure. And I'm very grateful to my colleagues for allowing me to be the voice on the council on this. And so I will continue to utilize this position to educate the public and coordinate resources moving forward. I think that's it. I'm happy to stop talking. Oh, well, I have upcoming priorities and policy initiatives. Oops. Let's see. I did not plan for this, but I think it's already been spoken about, the technological infrastructure improvements. I had a hearing on that. I have an ordinance establishing street food enterprises in the city of Boston. This was born out of folks in East Boston selling food out of baby carriages and trucks, mostly Central and Latin American folks, but just generally wanting to unlock an economic mobility tool for entrepreneurs who don't necessarily have the capital to pay for a food truck or brick and mortar. The city seems favorable to it. It would be very similar to the food truck ordinance, where you would have to have designated zones. You would have a committee that would review the permits. And what I'm trying to do is just make it easier and create a passport program. Right now, these folks have to go to 5 different buildings to get the necessary approvals. And so I just kind of want to streamline it. I'm creating a food recovery program that would compel large grocery stores to donate safe to consume food that would be subjected to health inspections, and actually provide a lot of dignity and choice if we're able to get the food hub model up. That's very similar to Milan, where folks are able to go shopping instead of waiting in a food line. So we're going through a lot of proposals and ideas with that. And I don't have to get through the rest of them. I really would love to open this up and answer any questions you might have. Here's our contact information for our office. You know Jack very well, North End Wharf District Liaison. But many of you have my cell phone number. please call or text us, email us. We're always here. We're available. And would love to, I don't know, just open up the dialogue and have a discussion. Thanks, everybody.
Also, let me just say that we don't want to prejudge whatever the presentation is going to be on February 27th about State Street. We're not under the impression, however, that it's going to be substantially different from what we've heard so far. I know you've only been representing State Street folks for the last, 2.5 months or whatever it is, as you said. But please know that there are a lot of people who are really, really upset about this. All of the people on State Street, all of the people in the Wharf District, all of the people on the North End. Now, we don't really know how to effect change to the street department's policy. We're a bunch of volunteers. We get together with good intent, but we're not professionals at this. And we are not succeeding. We are beating our heads, all of us, against the wall. I got a sandwich at Al's today and managed to hear very clearly again from one of the State Street retailers who is just speaking on his behalf, just beside himself at how we are not being listened to. And we say it over and over again. We've had meetings with Yasha and with Julia Campbell, is the deputy. And that were hosted. I can't recall. You may have been there for that one too, or some part of it. I think.
Yes, she was
right?
at the last.
At the hearing where the deputy chief said, we'll definitely come back to you with some more plans to, show you alternatives. Nothing, right?
Never came back.
Never came back, never responded to us. We tried to set up a meeting with Nathaniel Fink, who's in charge of the Milk Street project. You may recall, Councilor, that we presented at the last meeting with the deputy chief, and I think Councilor Flynn was there, you were there, I think Councilor Murphy. We presented alternative solutions just to be considered. We're not saying we're the experts on this, but to consider alternative solutions, especially given that Milk Street is now going to have bike lanes, and we've made it clear several times that we're not against bike lanes in general. We understand the necessity of bike lanes and the desirability of bike lanes. We think that where those bike lanes are placed should be done in a thoughtful and collaborative and transparent way. So we offered our input formally to the chief and to the deputy chief, and we have heard nothing. In fact, Nathaniel Fink refused to meet with us in person about Milk Street. So I'm just adding a little bit of background just so that you're aware of what we have been experiencing for months and even years leading up to this public meeting.
Going on for 6 years.
And we get calls from all of the other neighborhood community groups or whatever you want to call us, right? And they keep saying the same thing over and over again. Streets Department is not listening to us. We don't want this stuff to be happening. We know our neighborhood better than they do. We have been told over and over again, it doesn't matter what we think. Bad traffic is a perfectly okay trade-off for having the bike lanes that they want. This is not democracy the way it's supposed to work, right? And we ask you, please, I understand that you have to walk a careful line, but this is a absolutely universal opposition to what is being proposed by people who don't know how to express their voice except through you.
And I take that very seriously. And I would encourage folks to email me, to call our office, and just note their stance on this. I did ask the streets department, who supports this? And so they had said that they do have support. I'm very interested to hear folks' opinions following the meeting. I will always be here to listen and to consider it. I asked about capital funding, what this might look like, what wheels have already started turning. And it sounds like there's already been allocations in the capital budget, that there might need to be some more in the capital budget. But again, as I said earlier, while I do support some aspects of this plan, and I am a pedestrian, I don't have a car, but I also don't have a bike. I'm not here shouting from the mountaintops that we need more bike lanes, but I would like to walk down State Street safely. I have asked for a demonstration of proof of concept. They're very data-driven, the streets department. Very, very smart people. I had asked for more consideration of lived experience, right? Then also demonstration of proof of concept and these data points of how many bikers have utilized it. How has this made pedestrians and bikers safer? And anything that they have. The fact that we were in the pandemic when this was launched is not an excuse anymore. We're 2 years out. And I would at least like some data points to look at to make an informed decision. But granted, I understand that folks are very much against this, or they just want to seek alternative proposals, which I think is fair. And it's fair to ask the tough questions because ultimately, from what I saw in the proposal, this is going to cost the city millions and millions of dollars. Are we allocating our resources, our very precious resources, especially the fiscal situation that we might be in coming years? Is this the right place to put this money? Which I think is all of our responsibility, not just mine. But please know I am listening to all of you. If you have specific concerns, please email me. And we'll have a representative at the meeting if I can't make it myself. I forget if it's exactly a week from today. But I am listening to you all and have already asked these questions of the streets department.
So I have one more element to add to this, and I want to make sure that the folks on the Zoom call have an opportunity too. I don't want to dominate the call, but there's one more element to this that I think it's important to recognize, and it's one of the issues that you brought up earlier, which is emergency response and emergency management. And we are very concerned that if there were a catastrophic incident here on the waterfront, State Street is the only westbound exit out of the waterfront area to get to Mass General Hospital or to get to other parts of the city.
It's the most direct.
It's the most direct way out. And we think that Milk Street presents a great opportunity to have two-way bike lanes all the way up and down Milk Street. It is a much less commercial, less congested street. So that is part of what we have proposed to utter silence in response. Everybody knows the State Street needs to get redone. It's a disaster, and if you look at what's happening to retail there, it's just gotten murdered. So we want State Street to be redone. Councilor, if there's any opportunity for us to walk through the State Street and Milk Street plans that we have that in detail, that has been worked out, parking spot by parking spot on both streets. The street department has refused to go through to meet with us.
Yes.
But we would really like to show you that this has been carefully thought through by a lot of really people who really understand the neighborhood. I understand that the streets department has to deal with all of Boston, and they've got lots of things they have to deal with. We don't. We are focused on 2 streets and making those 2 streets really good. We know this better than they do. And we would like at least you to know what specifics we're looking for, so that you can make up your own mind based their data. We know what their data is. They stop people on the sidewalk walking through and said, "Do you think bike lanes are good on State Street?" And the people who were walking along said, "Sure." And so then they told us that, right? That's not the way you do a survey of the people who represent the community. So, you know, you can, yeah. Data is good, right? But you gotta look at where the data has come from. Their survey is not the same as our survey where we asked that we have the 600 people who responded to a very specific set of suggestions and alternatives and asked them to opine on real live data, not just a, you know, somebody asking an already formatted
Loaded question.
loaded question, right? So we're not just whining here. We're trying to do the right thing for our neighborhood, as I know you will. And we just are not getting the proper kind of response. So anyway, that's the spiel. We're available anytime you'd like to go through.
Thank you. I would love to touch base and get your initial reactions. Anybody, really, if anybody wants to have a conversation with me about what they see next week, please reach out. I will make myself available.
Chris Cook.
Mark, is it okay to switch over to another topic?
The box is over.
I was just gonna say, you know, Counselor, I think it's really exciting, the concept of you know, a unifying office focused on coastal resiliency. Incredibly impressed with the Wharf District Council's planning on this, aided by tons of people on this call, and you know that plan very well. You know, I, among a whole bunch of other people in this room, were, you know, very impressed with the Boston Planning Development Agency and the Environment Department's work on Long Wharf. So I know that growing up in a neighborhood where you're surrounded by water on three sides, that probably informs your excitement and enthusiasm by this. But do you see the potential for the Wharf District Council and this neighborhood being protected in a 10 to 15 year horizon? And what are the steps that you see needed to get us to the design flood elevations that we all need?
Thank you for this great question, Chief. Well, I was
Chris.
Chief. Chris, Chief Chris, it's a great question. I do think that we could get there. There is some great work being done out of the Environment Department, and like I said earlier, it seems to be an alignment with city, state, and federal now. The city has always, as you know, the city has always been interested in this and has been thinking about the future and how to protect ourselves from the 2030 flood levels. But what needs to happen now is beyond just grants to FEMA or NOAA. We really have to coordinate resources locally. And utilizing, you know, the mayor's new potential urban renewal tools of resiliency, affordability, and equity. And when it comes to private development, we really need to have city, state, and Massport really lean in to putting their money where their mouth is and providing some resources for either right infrastructure or nature-based strategies. I see Christo on the line. He does incredible work through the Stone Living Lab and really helping to push the city forward in that regard. We also have the Army Corps of Engineers that's working with the city right now. And so there's a potential match there if we're able to work through that agreement. And I'm curious to know where that work is at and understand, you know, where we go from there as a city. But there's a lot of different balls rolling, I guess you can say, and it's starting to come into an alignment that I don't think has happened before. And it's because we are seeing more frequent and severe storms, and we're seeing more storm surge. And so it's not just that it's a far and away concept, it's actually here. We all live it on this call. And so I do think within the next 10 to 15 years, yes. I think we are still behind in many respects, but I'm hopeful for some of the work that I see already happening.
Thank you. Joe Christo, I see your hand raised.
Thanks so much, Mark. Can you all hear me okay? Great. Great points, Chris, and great presentation, Councilor Coletta. Always good to see you. And yeah, I agree. The city is taking on a lot of fantastic work, and the partnership with, Army Corps of Engineers is important. And the Long Wharf study is really great work as well. And like everyone mentioned, obviously the Wharf District Council work is just kind of incredibly innovative and leading on a lot of areas too. I just wanted to flag, Mark, I've been meaning to mention this at actually the past 2 meetings. The Stone Living Lab, we recently launched some new instrumentation called Hohonu water level sensors. We have 4 of them throughout the city now, and they're overland water sensors measuring flood depth at certain key areas. The project is in partnership with the city, as well as Woods Hole Group, and I was able to talk to Councilor Coletta about it a couple weeks ago. One of them, as I noted, is at the end of Long Wharf, and on January 10th, January 13th, and February 13th, really observed some pretty significant flooding, as we all did with our eyes as well, but it was some of the highest scientifically observed flooding levels ever on Long Wharf on January 13th in particular. So we have some information on it on our website. I'm going to drop it in the chat right now for everybody, and just wanted to flag folks for that because it's a new project. It's called Real-Time Monitoring in Boston Harbor. And anytime there is an event, we look to be making sure that we're documenting it well and sharing that information. So wanted to do so here.
Correct. Great, Joe. Thank you very much. We don't want to keep Councilor Coletta all night, but any other questions for her? I don't see any. Councilor, oh, sorry. Oh, Joy.
Yeah, thank you, Mark. Councilor Coletta and Mark, I'm not sure who knows the answer to this, but will the meeting next Tuesday about State Street be recorded? So those of us who aren't available can't attend can see the recording and also share it with others?
You know the answer.
The State Street meeting will be recorded and it will be on their website, yes.
Apparently it will.
It being on their website just means it'll be buried. So we need to proactively send it out to people we know in the neighborhood in the North End and let people know, because if it's like other meetings that I've been to with you, Suzanne and Mark, it's not a very respectful response that you are given. And I think people need to see that.
We do have the meeting notice flyer, so we'll make this available to all of the Wharf District folks.
We'll send, well, that's a great suggestion, Joanna, and you know, you also obviously have a database of folks involved with the park and the North End as well. Cheryl Delgreco, I'm sure, has a group of people that she's communicating with. Councilor, it's not clear to us whether this is a presentation or whether this is a conversation. I do suspect that there will not be an opportunity for everyone who is vehemently opposed to this to register their concern. But we will certainly try to get people as informed as possible.
I will just say that I had given them the feedback that based on the amount of slides that we didn't get to in my meeting, the presentation was too long. And so I asked them to be very succinct and to listen to folks. So Jack can back me up on that. He was there. I am hoping, and what I had pushed for was a dialogue and a conversation. So I'm hopeful that they will listen. They've been pretty receptive so far, at least to some of my concerns. And I'm hopeful to get some of those data points beforehand. But again, I'm here if folks want to meet following that discussion once you do see everything. And we'll take all of the points and concerns and comments into consideration. And I do see that Melissa has put in the chat that Councilor Flynn has produced a hearing order on community process, and definitely recommend folks to go to that, encourage folks to let their voices be heard as it relates to the State Street project. I understand that there's many different transportation initiatives across the city. And so I'm hopeful for a robust conversation in that hearing too, because I'm sure we will hear from bike advocates, pedestrian advocates. I'm sure electric scooters will come up because that's more prevalent these days. And so just encourage everybody to let their voices be heard in all different mediums.
Thank you very much again. We look forward to continuing our dialogue and to the wonderful representation that you give us in all things environmental, from the big to the little.
Thank you all so much for having me. And really, I'm here anytime if you would like to have a conversation or a discussion about any different matters.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you.
We're gonna move on to hear from Adam Burns. Adam, you sent a presentation to me, did you?
That's what we just forwarded over.
Yeah, let me just,
I have some printouts too.
let's see, there you go.
Mark, do you want me in that chair there, or do you want me to just stay
No,
over here?
I think, I will, just,
Yep.
and, people see this presentation?
Yes.
Thank you. My name is Adam Burns. I'm the project proponent for 281 Franklin Street here in the Wharf District. It's the corner of Franklin and Battery Marsh. And I just want to thank everybody from the Wharf District for allowing me to present this project to you this evening, inviting me in to share a project that I'm personally very excited about. Unfortunately, I don't have the rest of my team with me here tonight. We're covering a few different meetings, so you're stuck with my novice answers for the most part. But if there's something that I can't answer that comes up this evening, I'm more than happy to get a follow-up answer to that and send it over via email afterwards. But I really do appreciate everybody's time and attention. I will try to keep it brief as we run through this small project, which is taking advantage of Mayor Wu's pilot program for office to residential conversion. As you can see displayed on the screen, we have 281 Franklin Street. This is a nice isometric view from the corner of Battery Marsh and Franklin, looking back at the building. The existing building is a 6-story structure with office on floors 2 through 6, and the Mediterranean grill includes shoe repair on the ground floor. The proposal is to convert floors 2 through 6 to residential units, 3 per floor. And we are going to be maintaining the retail tenants, David Shoe Repair and the Mediterranean Grill on the ground floor. We are very excited to embark on this project, and we hope that this is the first of many that we're able to officiate in this area. Next slide, please. This is just a project locus, and I do apologize. We're also recycling the presentation that we just did about 2.5 weeks to the public for the BPA process as part of this, but there is a few slides in here that cover city policy around the pilot program. I will do my best to cover those, and I can also make introductions or provide contact information to those within the BPA that can provide deeper and more robust answers if there are any questions there. Zoomed in locus, 281 Franklin. Thank you, Mark. We can go to the next page. A couple other viewpoints of the subject property. The image to the right is a view of the backside of the building. There's an alleyway to the rear. Street.
This building, or
that's actually a condominium building. So that is 4 office condos over retail condominium. So we are just the narrow structure. This is a zoomed out view further down Franklin Street, looking back. That's the old Umbria Prime. And they're also very beautiful structure.
Maybe we should buy that. It's going to ruin it.
It's very sad to see.
It is really
It's
sad.
a really beautiful building.
it is, it was a great restaurant.
It's definitely something that we'd be interested in. We have yet to be able to come to an agreement on that. Continuing on though, we are definitely, no, we are definitely in pursuit of that one as well. This is a site image just showing the site in its totality. We have a private way to plan right here. And on the top side of the plan, Franklin Street, and then to the left, Battery Marsh Street. So we are fronting on a private way and two public streets, affording this building plenty of light and air for those future residents, which we appreciate. Few floor plans here, and I believe we have zoomed in floor plans on future slides. So yep, we'll continue on. So this is the ground floor space. Oh, sorry, basement space rather, showing what will be a new bike parking room or a bike parking spaces. I would say that's, we'll call it to the right side of the plan there, and we're also adding 5 bikes to the south side of the plan as well. This is just an effort to provide some sort of storage for bikes within the building. It does not meet the BPDA guidelines for new construction. We are predominantly a new construction developer. When we get to do that, we get to design these really amazing cool bike rooms with tons of storage and fix-it stations and really cater to that. Unfortunately, retrofitting an existing building, we're working within the confines of what we have here. So we are able to.
on a Zoom, yeah, but it's like a presentation.
Sorry, I thought that was a question from Don. We are able to fit these spaces that you see here, and to the left, you see some red areas. Those are demarcating kind of areas of renovation in the lower level. We are removing the basement level elevator stop, and we are lowering the floor area of just that one vestibule area that you'll see on the next slide to provide a handicap accessible entrance. Because of the historic nature of the building, we have the old iron stairs, which makes it not feasible to get a lift or some other ramp into the front entry. So we are adding a separate handicap accessible entrance off the private way, which will make that elevator accessible to those with disabilities.
So is there an elevator?
There is an elevator. If you go to the next slide, you'll see, so right there in the corner is our elevator. The area that kind of says male right there, that would be a reduced floor height area to allow for an on-grade handicap accessible entrance from the private way, thus allowing access to the elevator and to our group 2 units on the floors above.
So the elevator already exists in the building, it's just having the handicap access into the building? Yeah, okay.
Precisely, yep. So we're actually, it's about 3 feet that we're bringing that first floor stop down. So we're modifying where that elevator stops within the building in order to allow for that access.
But the units upstairs, this is, I mean, I'm jumping ahead a little bit, but
Sure.
the units upstairs do not have elevator access, is that right?
So there's direct elevator access to all the group 2 units, which are the 1-bedroom units, I would say plan left here. So we have group 2 units on floors 2 through 6, so 5 group 2 units on that left-hand side, which are direct elevator access. We have walk-up units for the 2 studios to plan right. So those do not have elevator access to them.
All the way up to the 6th floor.
All the way up to the 6th floor.
And you think there's a market for 6th floor walk-ups?
There is in the north end, there is in Beacon Hill. Wow. We believe that there will be a market for that here as well.
Wow. Okay. And there's a,
Yep. So we can continue to flip through the plans here. Next slide. That's the 6th floor. So they are pretty redundant as we go up. There's just a few dimensional shifts because we are reusing the existing stairwell. So that existing stair does ebb and flow a little bit from floor to floor, which changes the layout slightly, but redundancy in the sense that there's 3 units per floor going all the way up to the 6th floor. And that pretty much concludes the plan and presentation. I did want to leave ample time for questions and comments.
can you go back to I think one of the questions is, there are tenants in some of the spaces. How do you see this rolling out over time?
So there are tenants in the spaces. Those tenants' leases do expire. 3 of the floors go vacant with Tudor Intelligence this summer. June 1st, I believe, is the date. Don't quote me on that. 49 Partners does occupy the 4th floor. They have a short-term extension on their lease until this fall. And then SAM architecture is a conversation that we're yet to have. We are able to convert without that top floor initially. They do have more term, I believe, till 2026 or 2027 of their lease. We believe them to be paying over market rate, and they would be much more comfortable in a building that is to remain office long term. They, I believe, are paying $51 or $52 per square foot, which is about 40% over market right now, with where a Class B building like this should be sitting.
So you plan to start construction in June?
The hope would be to do some limited construction on the floors that become available in June, with full construction in March.
What about the retail on the first floor?
Yeah, that's actually a really good question. Do you mind if we flip back to that first floor plan? Two more back. Right there. Cool. One more forward. No, one more. Thank you. So if you see down here at the bottom of the page, there's a Franklin Street entrance, which is the current entry to just the office floors, which is floors 2 through 6. That is wholly separate from the retail entry and from the retail services. So that new lowered area is going to be walled off from any access to the retail. And there's conduit and shaft away that allows us to get past those retail tenants without it otherwise impacting their operations.
Questions for Ellen?
You said there were 3 units on each?
3 units.
Are these apartments or condos?
They're apartments.
Apartments.
And are they, is there a requirement for affordability in any of them?
Great question. I should have touched on that. So we have 20% affordability. So 3 of these units will be affordable.
Just an FYI, the condos at 76 Battery March, the adjacent building, those are residential condos,
Oh, they
not office.
Okay.
Yeah, and they are planning to, and the city has agreed to redo the front area where the sidewalk is in front of the coffee shop.
Coffee shop tradesman down there?
No,
Next
that's
door.
right in front of the building, 76 Battery March, the entrance, the coffee shop that's there now, the business coffee shop.
Coffee
Well, I think they're a printer,
Yep.
a business printing place. Yeah, they're gonna redo that sidewalk area there.
Oh, that's perfect.
And they're gonna put in a new entrance on the side of the building. And they're in the process of getting their elevator redone.
Oh, awesome.
Yeah.
You have intimate knowledge. That's great.
Yeah, there's an active listing in there now, so.
Yeah, we don't have those beautiful granite slabs on that side of the street, but we do along Franklin. We have the old historic, really beautiful granite
Yeah,
slab.
those are great.
You know, it really brings back that charm of what this neighborhood in this area specifically was.
Yeah, so it is residential next door and it's gonna be nicer.
Perfect.
Yeah.
With a square foot range for studios from like 450 square feet to it's like 551 or 541. I mean, is that the sort of the, I don't know, the standard size for studios in, I sort of compare this a little bit to North End because it's a building similar to there. But is that typical? It seems.
So 450 square feet for studios is the standard metro unit size for a studio. For 1 bedroom, it's 600 square feet. For 2 bedroom, it's 750 square feet. That's in the neighborhoods. Downtown, those numbers are a little bit different. But do you remember the compact living policy pilot that the city had a few years back? It just recently sunsetted, but the city came out with metro or compact living policy pilot, which would basically say you can go below those numbers in the neighborhoods if you provided other building amenities that offset the need for space within the unit. So the standard unit sizes are 456 and 750 for studio 1 to 2. But that compact living policy pilot program encouraged units of smaller sizes. So we actually do own some buildings like in South Boston and other neighborhoods where they do fall into that pilot program. And we have studios that are sub 400 and we have 1 bedrooms that are in the 500s and they lay out quite well. I think with new construction, you do get a little bit more ability to lay them out in an intelligent way. Here, you know, we're working to reuse and repurpose an existing structure, so we're a little more confined. But I do believe that these units will lay out quite well in the way that they say.
I have a question regarding washers and dryers. Is there a central location or are they in each of the units?
They're in unit one. So,
They're in unit
yeah, so
one.
every unit will have their own.
Thank you.
If you proceed as you're scheduled, how long before this will be done? Ready for occupancy?
Before we're done, we'll start limited construction again later this summer with full construction embarking in the fall. We believe that it's a less than a 12-month sort of construction project. So by next summer, next fall, we anticipate leasing up the units.
Great. Well, even if they're not quote unquote affordable, I have to think that the smaller units are still going to be a lot less expensive place to live than some other places. And that's a good thing too.
These aren't 4,000 square foot penthouse units. These are much more affordable than some.
Other questions from anybody about 281 Franklin Street, Brad? Do you need anything from us or are you just
just here to, you know, put a face with the project and, you know, inform and educate on what's going on out here and let you know that we hope that this is the first of, you know, some projects that we can bring for you because we believe in this adaptive reuse of these structures.
And I understood from the Zoom on this I went to that this is the first in the pipeline of projects, and this is the initial one with several more coming.
We are very much the guinea pig.
So, and that was gonna be my question. Last time we heard from the city folks about the projects generally. How's it working with the city?
So I have to say that it's been really refreshing to work through this process with the BPA and John Weil, who is kind of spearheading this for the BPA. He's an individual and he's working very hard to make this a successful program. A lot of things within permitting in the city happen very sequentially, and we've been able to kind of fold some of those things back on top of one another to have it happen more in parallel, which has been really interesting to see and really refreshing in a lot of ways.
Well, you kind of got to because there's a really short time frame of this, right?
There is. It's a very aggressive timeline. If we are successful in having a permit issued sometime in the April timeframe, I believe we'll be the fastest Article 80 process ever done.
Yeah.
Hello there. I'm very glad to hear you're going to restore the beautiful granite sidewalks.
Thank you, David. Yeah, we're very passionate about the history of these buildings and keeping it as authentic as we possibly can. Great.
So you are possibly considering other locations within the Wharf District neighborhood? Is that fair to say?
That is fair to say. We do have a number of pursuits that take us outside of the Wharf District, but there are a few within the Wharf District that we have active conversations.
It's a great use for these older buildings. I mean, God knows that there's.
Versus sitting
Too much
vacant
office
like
space.
the Umbria Prime building, it's ridiculous.
Such a beautiful building.
Yeah.
It fills me every time I see that. Yeah. No, we really hope to breathe new life into these beautiful buildings.
I don't understand why you buy an asset like that and just let it sit there and fall apart.
I can't imagine another reason personally, but it's a shame.
I've heard about the owner of that.
Didn't they come at one point and have this
Yes.
proposal and it was like.
Yeah, they came and left. They were here.
It
was a foreign.
Yeah, Chinese man
who was going to.
Yes, I remember that. Yeah.
Yeah.
But it was, the
They were
owners were British and the person who was going to put in a restaurant or something was Chinese.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
And
Hey,
he
hold
was-
on for 1 second, okay?
Okay. All right.
No.
Okay, all right. Thank you very much.
Thank you, everybody. I appreciate your time.
Thank you.
Yeah. This will be.
Okay, let's see, State Street, I think we talked about State Street, right? We're tired of talking about State. Matthew, membership, update on membership?
Yes, so, what is our most recent,
As a sole.
So, I don't know if anyone, if you all are familiar with Bobby Rudolph, who is an attorney, has a small law firm on State Street, and he and his family own the building. I don't recall the number, but it's, thank you. Thank you. But Bobby has been in conversation with us about the State Street project and has also been interested in the other things that we're working on. So Bobby Rudolph is joining as a new member, and he'll be coming on board very soon. And I have a meeting coming up this Thursday with a VP from Related Beal about the Grain Exchange building across the way, which is of course a building of great historical cultural significance, and is also vulnerable to they're aware of the work that we've been doing on coastal resilience. So, Boston Market. I would mention that we had a meeting today with Boston Public Market, and they're not officially on board yet, but very, very interested in what we're doing and becoming more engaged with us, and we with them. Yes, I personally have not been there many times, and I was very impressed with the variety of things that are there, and food, and there's all kinds of things. So I think there's a good chance that they'll be joining very soon as well.
I think part of the conversation that was particularly worthwhile is we said, look, we really want to make sure that we are helping the folks in the Wharf District be successful. And, you know, that includes doing things like making sure that our friends in the Greenway have their, let's see, where did I go? Okay, so I have, supposed to be showing this thing on, where did we go? On, there we go.
Yeah, but you're jumping. We're not ready for that.
Okay.
Don't jump.
Anyway, anything else on,
Yes, you should mention our new associate members.
Oh, yes, I'm not as informed as you are, so you check that.
Well, John, you can probably help me with this. I mean, I wasn't,
We have associate members.
we have some,
We have
and I
associate
hate to mention some and not include others, because, I mean, I know, Mike Manning.
Yes, Mike Manning, I think is on the call.
He is, and Joanne.
Joanne Hayes Rhines, I haven't seen the full list.
And now we're gonna get ourselves in trouble.
There are two others, at least.
Yes.
Yeah. Maybe they could self-identify.
I know Cynthia Kelly. And I don't have my book with me.
Yeah.
But next time we'll make sure that.
Sure.
Yeah.
It's just that when we start identifying some, we need to
Yes.
mention.
and I think if I can find a way to bring this up, I don't know why I'm having such difficulty, but,
What are you trying to do?
I'm trying to share that, but for some reason I'm not.
You're just dying.
You can just choose share screen, it'll share whatever you're looking at.
Yeah.
There you go, choose that top
There we
left.
go,
There you go, yeah, okay.
Yeah. So. We talked a little bit about the sign. Do you want to tell us, Doug?
It's great, I highly recommend it. You go online, you make a reservation, make your payment online, show up when you're supposed to, and yeah, it's very enjoyable.
You might, Chris Cook is still on the Zoom. We might want to ask Chris about it.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Chris, you still there? You wanna say anything?
Yeah,
about it?
well, I just wanted to mention that the third sauna that they added was indeed for capacity, but also it makes it fully accessible as a site, you know, and so the rest of the Greenway is fully accessible and something we take great pride in, the fact that the carousel is the most accessible carousel in New England. So we really made that a priority with the Moki people, and they fulfilled their promise. They actually constructed it, and so that's pretty exciting. And yeah, that entertainment license is for the actual speaker they have when you go in and, you know, the person's taking your credit card. It's within there, so there's not music coming outside there. But you know, it's going to be going through March 31st, and then, you know, very quickly, mid-April, Trillium will be back on site. So it's just an exciting time at the Greenway, and hope springs eternal, just like spring. But in the meantime, you can jump into a cold plunge.
So Chris, I hear that this, it's called the Sauna Village, that it's been very popular. It's a hit, from what I understand, yes?
Yeah, it is. It's been very successful. What we don't know is this something that should return, you know, every year in perpetuity? Is this a fad? And fads are wonderful and they're great, and you experiment with them and then they go away. But so that's, you know, it remains to be seen if there's a sustained interest in Nordic activities. But what I will say that's exciting is that this is a winter activity in Boston that isn't tied to something like a very loud generator that works for a chiller for a skating rink or something like that, which can be very obtrusive. And this feels like a niche that fits well here. And we were really excited because there did seem to be some positive spillover effect to some of the local restaurants. You know, this is not a place, you know, they don't want to mix alcohol with the saunas at all. And so this is not a place where people are going and, you know, so they might go someplace else afterwards and patron. So but yeah, it's been wildly popular. And I have to say personally, I really was, you know, excited, but a skeptic about this. And I was totally excited to be wrong. So.
And the people I met there were not just from downtown Boston. They were from the North Shore. They were from all over. And they came all the way into Boston to do that on a weekend. So kudos.
That's what I was going to ask you, Chris. Sure they're tracking where the people come from.
Yeah, so Joanne, they are, and I actually think, you know, as part of our due diligence with the Wharf District and our proud associate membership, we could do like a report out at the end of the season and just let people know who it was. And I agree. I don't think this is necessarily all people who live here.
Great, it's wonderful. It's great to have a draw. Thank you. Other business, anyone?
Just one more thing about the State Street. There is a meeting on the 27th of February. It's a virtual public meeting. There you have to register, and a notice went out to some people, but not everyone. What we can do is send out the link, and we would encourage people to go on to that, to register and go on to the site on the 27th of February, because if our voices aren't heard, then we are surely going to I'm trying to choose my words here, but to lose the fight, quite honestly.
Yeah.
And I've heard that there are several other events going on that night, but I really encourage you, if you live in a building where you can spread the word about this meeting, I think it's very important that there be a voluble
We need to get the old town hall folks to make sure.
Oh, absolutely, yeah, be in touch with.
What time is the meeting?
It starts at 6:30 and goes to 8.
So just right when you have something else. Yeah.
But I think we're talking about trying to do something else to to generate more awareness and to continue our challenge to what they're trying to do.
Tito has said we're too nice about this.
Yes.
Other questions, thoughts, comments?
Or does anybody else have something that they want to share? I know, but usually Joanne and Friends of Christopher Columbus Park always have something.
I have a little something.
Okay, but let me just,
Please, Joanne, you first.
Well, we still have our Tunnel of Love, and that goes through the end of the month. And it's been, as always, very, very successful. A lot of people, the weather has been cooperative from the point of, except for the freezing nights, it's been really nice to see so many people walking through there, dancing through there, holding hands, children dancing, taking pictures. So it's been wonderful. And we need to thank just everybody who makes all that we do possible. So thanks everybody for your support. It's very fun.
Any new engagements this year that you know of?
What was that?
Any new wedding proposals that you know of?
Oh, absolutely. Early on, I walked through and I talked to people, and I was taking this young couple's picture, and I said, you know, there are a lot of proposals that go on, and the young man pops up and says, oh yeah, my friend just proposed here 2 nights ago. So, you know, you just hear it all the time. I love it. It's just great. It's so fun. And it's something people can do that doesn't cost anything. And like Chris just referenced, you know, it doesn't make a lot of noise. And so it uplifts everybody.
Matthew? Yes, I just want to let folks know that if anyone's feeling adventurous, and I say this on behalf of Boston Harbor City Cruises and Boston Harbor Now, this coming Saturday is a really special adventure called the Winter Wander, and there are maybe 25, 30 tickets left. So it's usually a sellout every year, but it's a special cruise that goes out to Pettix Island, and you actually get off at Pettix, and there are tours of the wildlife out there, the flora and fauna, and you can definitely bundle up and put on some boots. But it's very popular. People who have been out there and done it, and actually, you want to say anything about it, Liz?
I think that's a great summary. We're gonna have some wonderful tours on the island.
Oh, tour.
The birding wildlife tour, there will be s'mores by a fire pit. It's gonna be a wonderful warming day, even though the temperatures are low.
Great. Yes. So anyway, that's this coming Saturday, the 24th. And you can get more information at citycruises.com/Boston. Great.
Anybody else? Ciara, I see you're still on. Do you have any neighborhood services perspective? Okay.
Were you mentioning me or someone else?
Sarah, so there's a Ciara and Sarah. But Sarah,
I don't have anything to add at this time. I just didn't want to be unresponsive.
Thanks, sir. Flora, do you need me to stay on, or are we good?
No, I think we're good.
Thank you all. Talk to you next month, if not before.
thank you, everyone.